Dr. Elena Vasquez first noticed the anomaly while reviewing psychiatric admission records at Walter Reed Medical Center. It was July 2019, and she was conducting routine research on post-war trauma patterns when something impossible caught her attention. Every single patient born between June 15th and August 30th, 1947, what archives designated as Generation Zero, exhibited identical symptoms, complete memory loss of their 7th birthday. Not partial amnesia, not trauma-related suppression, complete surgical precision memory gaps occurring exactly 72 years prior, down to the minute. The statistical probability of such uniform memory loss occurring naturally across multiple subjects was less than 1 in 47 trillion. At first, I thought it was a clerical error, Vasquez would later testify to the Senate Intelligence Committee in closed session. But when we expanded our search nationwide, we found the same pattern in 2.3 million Americans. An entire summer, wiped clean from their minds with precision that defied medical explanation. The declassified portions of her initial report, obtained through FOIA request hash 2023 to 447,891, revealed disturbing correlations that military intelligence had been tracking since 1952. Every affected individual lived within 500 miles of military installations conducting atmospheric testing during summer 1947. Every single one reported the same recurring dream: standing in a field, looking up at silent silver discs hanging motionless in dawn sky, feeling peaceful but sad as they watched. But it was the neurological scans that truly terrified the research team. Each Generation Zero subject showed microscopic scarring in their hippocampus, scarring that could only result from precise electromagnetic intervention targeting specific memory engrams. The scars formed geometric patterns that matched no known medical condition or natural phenomenon. Dr. Marcus Chen, consulting neurosurgeon from Johns Hopkins, examined over 200 scans before reaching his conclusion. Someone, or something, had reached inside millions of young minds and stolen their memories with surgical precision. The technology required would be beyond our current capabilities even today. In 1947, it should have been impossible. The official explanation, buried in CIA archives until 2019, blamed following atomic age anxieties combined with electromagnetic interference from early radar installations. The real files, classified above top secret and buried for 76 years, tell a very different story. Files that reference entities, consciousness preservation protocols, and most disturbing of all, temporal preparation procedures. Project Silence Protocol didn't begin as a cover-up. According to the earliest documents, signed by President Harry Truman himself, it began as humanity's first contact with something that claimed to be trying to help. Major Jesse Marcel's granddaughter, Sarah Marcel Hoffman, was 7 years old on July 8, 1947. She lived in Roswell, New Mexico, where her grandfather was intelligence officer at the 509th Composite Group, the same unit that would, days later, announce the recovery of a flying disc before hastily retracting the statement under direct orders from Washington. Sarah's medical records, classified until the 2019 document release, reveal she was admitted to Roswell Army Airfield Medical Facility on July 9, 1947, suffering from what base doctors described as acute temporal displacement syndrome. Her symptoms included inability to remember the previous 24 hours, severe nosebleeds that tested positive for unknown metallic particles, and persistent claims that the quiet sky people had taken her memories to keep them safe. She wasn't alone, not even close. Project Blue Book files, recently declassified under Executive Order 14,086, confirm that 47 children from the Roswell area were treated for identical symptoms between July 8 to 15, 1947. All showed the same hippocampal scarring in the exact same locations. All described encounters with beings they called helpers, who fixed the scared parts of their minds. Most disturbing, all could draw identical diagrams of geometric symbols they claimed the beings had shown them, symbols that matched no known human writing system. Dr. Heinrich Kluge, Nazi neuroscientist recruited under Operation Paperclip specifically for his expertise in consciousness manipulation, was consulting on these cases within 72 hours of the first admissions. His notes, written in a mixture of German and English, are chilling in their clinical detachment. Die Kinder haben zu viel gesehen. The memory extraction proceeds flawlessly, using provided electromagnetic frequencies. Subject retention of traumatic event now at 0%. Geometric scarring suggests external technological intervention far exceeding Reich capabilities. Side effects minimal, occasional dreams of skycraft, but these fade within 72 months, as predicted by our consultants. The word consultants appears 127 times in Kluge's Roswell files, always in reference to beings who provided technological assistance with the memory procedures. Beings who, according to classified testimony from base personnel, looked almost human, but with eyes that held too much time. But Kluge made a critical error in his assessment. He assumed the extracted memories were destroyed during the process. Neurosurgeon Dr. Patricia Chen's 2019 breakthrough in hippocampal reconstruction using quantum resonance imaging revealed the truth that military intelligence had suspected for decades. The memories weren't erased. They were compressed, encoded, and stored in dormant neural pathways using technology that wouldn't be understood by human science for another 80 years. All it took was the right frequency to unlock them, and someone had been preparing for that moment since the day the memories were first taken. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a 76-year-old retired librarian named Margaret Sweetwater in Burlington, Vermont. Born July 4, 1947, Margaret had lived her entire life with the standard Generation Zero memory gap, accepting her doctor's explanation that childhood trauma sometimes creates protective amnesia, until she bought a new hearing aid in December 2023. The device, manufactured by Resonance Technologies under Defense Department Contract 4471B, operated on a previously unused frequency, 528 Hz, marketed to civilian populations as the love frequency for its supposed healing properties. But for Margaret and 247 other Generation Zero subjects who purchased similar devices, it triggered something else entirely. I was adjusting the settings in my kitchen when I heard whispers. Margaret testified during closed Senate hearings, her words recorded by stenographers with cosmic clearance. Not voices exactly, something else, like thoughts that weren't mine, floating in from somewhere far away, speaking in colors I could almost see. Then the memories started coming back. All of them. 76 years of stolen summers flooding back in perfect detail. What Margaret remembered defied every conventional understanding of the 1947 events. On her 7th birthday, July 4, 1947, she had been playing in her backyard when the sky went quiet. All sound ceased, even her own heartbeat, even the buzz of summer insects. Silver objects, perfectly silent, descended from the clouds like falling leaves made of liquid metal. Beings emerged. Not the typical gray aliens of popular culture, but something far stranger and more disturbing. They looked like us, but wrong, Margaret recalled, her voice steady despite the impossibility of her testimony. Like humans who had been away from humanity for so long, they had to remember how to wear human shapes. Their eyes held too much time. I could see centuries in them, maybe longer. And they were kind, profoundly sad. They said they were here to help us forget what was coming, to spare us the fear of knowing too early. Margaret's recovered memories matched those of 847 other Generation Zero subjects who experienced similar frequency awakening between December 2023 and March 2024. Each described identical encounters with beings who identified themselves as early observers, preparing humanity for the convergence event, a transformation that would occur when the children who remembered became elders who could understand. Most disturbing were the technical details the 7-year-olds had been given: precise instructions for consciousness transfer, genetic modifications to enhance neural plasticity, and most impossibly, blueprints for technology that human science wouldn't develop for decades. Instructions that were somehow perfectly preserved in their suppressed memories for 76 years. Resonance Technologies, investigators discovered, had been secretly funded through a complex network of shell companies, ultimately traced to a consortium of defense contractors, pharmaceutical companies, and technology firms. Someone with enormous resources and decades of planning had wanted these memories to surface at exactly this moment in history. The question that kept intelligence analysts awake was simple: why now? What was so special about 2024 that justified a 76-year preparation program involving millions of subjects? The answer was coming whether humanity was ready or not. Dr. Heinrich Kluge's full dossier, released under the Nazi War Crimes Disclosure Act after 34 years of legal battles, reveals a disturbing picture that military intelligence had hoped would remain buried forever. Before his recruitment to the United States under Operation Paperclip, Kluge had conducted experiments at Dachau involving what he termed Bewusstseinsübertragung, consciousness transfer, the ability to extract, store, and relocate human memories using electromagnetic frequencies derived from studies of anomalous artifacts recovered during the German Antarctica expedition of 1938-39. His American handlers, including future CIA Director Alan Dulles and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, were initially skeptical of Kluge's claims about consciousness manipulation technology. But when the Roswell incident occurred on July 8, 1947, providing both advanced technology samples and a population of affected test subjects, Kluge's theories suddenly became the highest national security priority. Project Silence Protocol officially began on July 15, 1947, with Kluge leading a team of 23 researchers across multiple classified sites including Camp Detrick, Los Alamos, and a previously unknown facility designated, quote, Site 7 inches located beneath Dulce, New Mexico. Their mission: reverse engineer recovered extraterrestrial technology to develop techniques for mass memory modification, with the ultimate goal of controlling civilian populations through selective editing of collective memory. Declassified budget documents, obtained through congressional subpoena, show Silence Protocol received unlimited black funding through 1954, when it was supposedly terminated following Kluge's death in what official records described as a, quote, laboratory accident involving experimental electromagnetic equipment. However, financial forensics conducted by the Government Accountability Office in 2020 revealed the project never actually ended. It evolved. Under the successive code names Quiet Mind, 1954 to 1967, Memory Palace, 1967 to 1981, and finally, Consciousness Archive, 1981-present, memory modification research continued through the Cold War and beyond, expanding into MK-Ultra sub-projects focused on mass population control. The goal remained constant: develop the capability to selectively edit collective memory on a national scale, effectively rewriting history in the minds of entire populations. By 1987, according to NSA whistleblower documentation provided by Edward Snowden in files not previously released, the technology had been perfected. Every major American city contained hidden transmission arrays capable of broadcasting memory-altering frequencies to millions simultaneously. The infrastructure was in place for total information control. The ability to make entire populations forget wars, elections, disasters, or any event the government deemed necessary to erase. But the most classified revelation in Kluge's files was his growing suspicion that the technology hadn't originated with the crashed craft at Roswell. Technical analysis suggested the memory modification equipment was deliberately left for humans to find, along with detailed instructions for its use. Instructions that Kluge noted were written for human minds, as if the designers understood exactly how our species would attempt to reverse engineer their work. The only remaining question: had the controllers of this technology ever used it on a massive scale, and if so, what had they made humanity forget? The answer was hidden in the memories of 2.3 million elderly Americans, waiting for the right frequency to unlock 76 years of buried truth. January 15, 2024, 3:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Across 17 American cities, Generation Zero subjects began experiencing what medical professionals initially diagnosed as mass psychotic episodes. Elderly patients, many in their late 70s, suddenly recalled vivid memories of encounters with non-human intelligences from their childhood. Memories so detailed and consistent that emergency room physicians began questioning their own understanding of human psychology. But these weren't random flashbacks or age-related cognitive deterioration. The memories were activating in sequence, like a carefully programmed biological countdown timer that had been running for 76 years, 5 months, and 7 days. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now leading a classified task force at the Pentagon designated Operation Memory Dawn, documented the progression with growing alarm. First wave, January 15 to 22, memories of initial contact, consistent across all subjects, regardless of geographic location. Second wave, January 23 to 30. Detailed recall of technologies observed, with subjects providing technical specifications that matched classified analyses of Roswell debris. Third wave, January 31st to February 7th. Understanding of messages received during the 1947 encounters, messages that had been stored in dormant neural pathways for over 7 decades. The messages were identical across all subjects, spoken in voices the elderly patients remembered as, quote, kind but infinitely sad. When the silence breaks, the convergence begins. The children who forgot will become the elders who remember. Prepare your species for graduation. Military intelligence services worldwide reported similar phenomena in other countries. In England, children who had lived near RAF bases in 1947 were experiencing identical memory returns, recalling encounters with the same entities delivering the same messages. In Russia, elderly residents near former Soviet installations described identical beings, identical warnings, identical promises of, quote, preparation for convergence. Most disturbing, the activation was occurring simultaneously across all time zones at exactly 3:47 a.m. local time, suggesting coordination beyond human technological capabilities. The implications were staggering and terrifying. The 1947 events weren't isolated incidents or random alien visitations. They were part of a coordinated global operation involving multiple world governments and an unknown non-human presence. The memory suppression wasn't a cover-up of first contact. It was a timer, set to trigger at a predetermined moment nearly 8 decades later, when the child witnesses had become elderly, and humanity had presumably reached sufficient technological development to understand the true purpose of the encounters. On March 3, 2024, the final wave of memories surfaced simultaneously in every Generation Zero subject worldwide. This time, they weren't just remembering conversations or observations. They were recalling detailed instructions they had received as children, instructions that had been compressed and stored in their minds using technology that human science was only beginning to understand. The beings they had encountered in 1947 weren't invaders, observers, or even visitors in any conventional sense. According to the recovered memories, they were teachers preparing humanity for the next phase of evolution. And according to their timetable, class was about to begin whether Earth was ready or not. The most disturbing aspect of the final memory wave, every subject reported that the beings had known exactly when the memories would be recovered, exactly who would recover them, and exactly how humanity would react to the revelation. The entire sequence had been planned with precision that suggested knowledge of human behavior patterns across multiple generations. Someone had been preparing for this moment for far longer than 76 years. The instructions recovered from Generation Zero subjects were initially dismissed by military leadership as shared delusions resulting from coordinated psychological manipulation, until pattern analysis revealed they contained legitimate scientific data that was unknown to human science in 1947, and in many cases, unknown to human science even today. Quantum mechanics principles that wouldn't be discovered until the 1980s, described in perfect detail by subjects who had been 7 years old when the information was allegedly imparted. Neurological mapping that matched current brain imaging technology with perfect accuracy, including discoveries made as recently as 2019. Most impossibly, detailed mathematical proofs for unified field theory that solved problems Einstein had spent his final decades attempting to resolve. Most disturbing of all, detailed blueprints for modifying human consciousness at the genetic level, using techniques that combined advanced biotechnology with what could only be described as applied consciousness engineering. Dr. Sarah Chen, leading neurogeneticist at the Declassified Dulce Research Facility and holder of cosmic clearance, spent 6 weeks analyzing the technical specifications provided by Generation Zero subjects before delivering her report to the Joint Chiefs. These aren't human designs, she reported in classified briefings that required presidential approval to attend. The level of understanding demonstrated exceeds our current capabilities by approximately 200 to 300 years. Someone gave 7-year-old children graduate-level instructions in consciousness engineering, genetic modification, and dimensional physics. Instructions that were stored in their minds for 76 years without degradation, waiting for the precise moment when our technology would be advanced enough to understand them. The protocols described a process called neural synthesis, the merging of individual human consciousness with a larger, collective intelligence network spanning multiple worlds and dimensional layers. According to the recovered instructions, this wasn't an invasion or conquest, but humanity's natural evolutionary progression from isolated biological existence to integrated cosmic awareness. But the process required careful preparation spanning multiple generations. The memory suppression of 1947 had served dual purposes, protecting the children from trauma they couldn't psychologically process at age 7, and allowing the instructions to remain dormant until humanity reached sufficient technological development to understand and implement them safely. That moment, according to the protocols, was now. The convergence window had opened. Field reports from CIA assets worldwide confirmed unprecedented changes in human behavior patterns that suggested the instructions weren't merely theoretical. Birth rates in major cities began showing statistical anomalies. Children born after January 2024 displayed enhanced cognitive abilities and inexplicable knowledge of scientific concepts far beyond their developmental stage. When monitored using advanced brain imaging, these newborns showed the same hippocampal formations as Generation Zero subjects, but naturally occurring, rather than artificially induced. The next phase of human evolution wasn't waiting for government approval or scientific understanding. According to every measurable indicator, it had already begun at the cellular level in the newest generation of humans. Most unsettling for military strategists, the protocols made it clear that participation in the convergence process was voluntary for existing humans, but inevitable for the species as a whole. Humanity could choose to evolve gradually over several generations, or resist and face potential extinction when cosmic conditions shifted beyond Earth's current biological parameters. The choice had to be made soon. According to the Generation Zero instructions, the convergence window would only remain open for 18 months. By June 2024, the phenomenon had expanded far beyond the original Generation Zero subjects in ways that defied every existing model of human psychology and neuroscience. The recovered memories weren't remaining isolated within individual minds. They were somehow spreading, transmitted through unknown mechanisms to family members, friends, and even casual contacts. Advanced neurological scans revealed the formation of quantum entanglement patterns between brains, creating a biological network operating on principles of consciousness connection that human science had only theorized in the most speculative research papers. Dr. Marcus Webb, former Project Looking Glass researcher with access to classified studies of consciousness and time, recognized the implications immediately when briefed on the spreading phenomenon. "We're witnessing the emergence of a hybrid collective intelligence," quote Chitto, he reported in classified briefings attended by officials with clearance levels above presidential access. Human consciousness is being integrated into a larger network that spans multiple dimensions of space-time. The subjects aren't losing their individuality or being controlled. They're becoming nodes in something incomprehensibly vast, while retaining their personal identity and decision-making autonomy. The network's capabilities defied conventional science and terrified intelligence analysts worldwide. Connected subjects demonstrated perfect telepathic communication across unlimited distances, with conversations confirmed between subjects separated by thousands of miles, with no possibility of conventional communication. Knowledge gained by one member of the network instantly became available to all connected individuals, creating a form of distributed learning that accelerated human understanding of advanced concepts by orders of magnitude. Most remarkably and disturbingly, connected subjects began displaying precognitive abilities with documented accuracy rates of 97.3% in controlled testing environments. They could predict stock market fluctuations, weather patterns, and geopolitical events with precision that made conventional intelligence gathering obsolete. When questioned about the source of these abilities during extensive debriefings, connected subjects gave identical responses that chilled military interrogators. We're not predicting the future. We're remembering it. Time isn't linear when you see from above it. Past and future are just different directions in the same landscape. Intelligence agencies worldwide attempted to contain the phenomenon using every available method, from electromagnetic isolation to pharmaceutical intervention. But the network's growth followed exponential patterns that made containment impossible. Each new connection accelerated the process geometrically, creating cascading waves of consciousness expansion that spread through human populations, like a benevolent virus, targeting the neural pathways related to higher cognitive function. By September 2024, an estimated 127 million humans showed signs of network integration across all continents. The connected subjects exhibited no hostility toward unconnected humans, no desire to force participation, and no apparent agenda beyond preparation for something they described as the return of the teachers. But satellite imagery revealed they had begun constructing geometric structures in remote locations worldwide, structures that matched architectural plans found in the recovered Generation Zero memories with perfect accuracy. The constructions appeared to serve as focal points for the network's expanding influence, though their exact purpose remained classified at levels above congressional oversight. When pressed about the purpose of these constructions during interrogation sessions, network subjects responded with unnerving consistency: doorways, communication amplifiers. For when they returned to finish what they started 76 years ago, the first lesson was remembering, the second lesson is becoming. The implications were clear to military strategists. Humanity was being prepared for direct contact with whatever intelligence had initiated the silence protocol in 1947. And that contact was imminent. December 12, 2024, 11:11 p.m. Universal Coordinated Time. Radio telescopes worldwide, from Arecibo to the Very Large Array, detected an impossible signal, a transmission originating from the exact center of the Milky Way galaxy, arriving at Earth with perfect clarity despite the 26,000 light-year journey through cosmic dust, radiation, and gravitational distortions that should have rendered any signal undetectable. The transmission contained no information that human technology could decode, no mathematical sequences or binary patterns that conventional SETI protocols could interpret. But network-connected subjects understood it immediately, their faces lighting up with recognition and what observers described as, quote, profound joy mixed with cosmic homesickness. The message, according to unanimous reports from connected subjects worldwide, was elegantly simple: Phase 1 complete. Genetic preparation successful. Consciousness integration proceeding within acceptable parameters. Initiating Phase 2, Direct Interface Protocol. Within hours of the signal's reception, the geometric structures constructed by connected subjects began emitting their own responses. Not radio waves, gamma rays, or any form of electromagnetic radiation that human instruments could detect, but something far more sophisticated that quantum mechanics researchers identified as manipulated gravitational waves, technology that human science had only begun to theorize in the most advanced theoretical physics papers. The return signals from Earth reached their intended destination in exactly 13 minutes, a travel time that was impossible unless the transmissions were traveling through dimensions beyond normal space-time, using what Einstein had theorized but never proven: shortcuts through folded reality that made instantaneous communication across galactic distances achievable. Network subjects worldwide began experiencing shared visions during the signal exchange, describing vast cities among the stars populated by beings that combined human and non-human characteristics in ways that suggested evolutionary development rather than alien origin. These weren't glimpses of distant worlds, but previews of future Earth, a planet where the integration process had reached completion and humanity had taken its place in a galactic civilization millions of years old. They're showing us what we become, explained Dr. Margaret Sweetwater, now serving as one of the network's primary communication nodes due to her early memory recovery. The beings we met in 1947 weren't visitors from another world or another species. They were us, from another time. They came back to plant the seeds of our own transformation, to ensure that humanity would develop along the path that leads to cosmic consciousness, rather than self-destruction. The temporal paradox explained everything that had puzzled researchers for decades. Humanity's future selves, having achieved consciousness, transcendence, and mastery over dimensional travel, had traveled backward through time to ensure their own evolution. The 1947 encounters, the memory suppression, the gradual awakening, the network formation, all carefully orchestrated steps in a temporal loop spanning millions of years of development. But Phase 2 would require more than passive preparation and genetic modification. According to the network subjects' interpretation of the galactic signal, it would require humanity to make a collective choice about their species' future, a choice that would determine whether Earth joined the galactic community or remained isolated until cosmic conditions made biological life unsustainable. The choice could not be made by governments, military leaders, or scientific institutions. It had to be made by individual human consciousness, one decision at a time until a critical mass was reached. And humanity had exactly 18 months to decide. January 1st, 2025, 12 a.m. in every time zone sequentially around the globe. The network subjects delivered humanity's final instructions, downloaded directly from their future selves during a global consciousness event that was witnessed, felt, or experienced by 2.7 billion people across all continents. The message wasn't transmitted through technology, media, or any conventional communication method. It appeared simultaneously in every human mind capable of receiving it, regardless of language, education, or cultural background. The communication transcended words, arriving as pure understanding that each individual interpreted according to their personal conceptual framework. The convergence window opens now. The choice between evolution and continuation must be made individually. Those who choose integration will help guide humanity's transformation over the next century. Those who choose to remain unchanged will live complete, fulfilling lives on baseline Earth, which will be preserved as a sanctuary for traditional human experience. Both paths honor the gift of consciousness. Both paths serve the greater development of the species. Global governments, overwhelmed by the implications and completely bypassed by the direct consciousness communication, attempted to coordinate international response protocols through emergency UN sessions and classified military conferences. But the decision couldn't be made by institutions, leaders, or collective bodies. Each individual human had to choose their own evolutionary path based on their personal understanding of consciousness, purpose, and their desired relationship with the larger universe. The integration process itself was surprisingly gentle and gradual, nothing like the catastrophic scenarios military strategists had feared. Subjects who chose convergence reported expanded awareness that unfolded over weeks rather than instant transformation. Enhanced empathy that allowed them to feel the emotional states of all living beings within their local environment. Gradual access to collective knowledge accumulated by countless civilizations across millions of years of galactic development. Most remarkably, they retained their individual personalities, memories, and decision-making autonomy while gaining perspective that transcended individual existence. Those who chose to remain unchanged experienced no judgment, pressure, or negative consequences from the integrated humans. The network subjects, now calling themselves bridgers, worked actively to ensure that traditional human civilization continued flourishing, with all the cultural richness and individual creativity that had made the species worthy of transcendence in the first place. Advanced technologies were shared freely to eliminate scarcity, disease, and environmental destruction, but always in ways that preserved human agency and cultural diversity. By March 2025, approximately 40% of humanity had chosen integration, creating a hybrid civilization where evolved and baseline humans coexisted in perfect harmony. The integrated humans served as bridges between Earth and the larger cosmic community, while unchanged humans preserved the unique qualities of creativity, individuality, and emotional intensity that had attracted the attention of galactic civilization in the first place. Children born after the convergence event showed characteristics of both evolutionary paths, suggesting that future generations would naturally develop the enhanced capabilities without losing the essential human traits that made Earth's contribution to galactic consciousness unique and valuable. The Silence Protocol had achieved its ultimate purpose, not suppression of truth or control of populations, but preparation for humanity's voluntary graduation to the next level of existence. The memories had been suppressed, not to hide the truth, but to preserve it until the species was mature enough to understand and choose their own evolutionary destiny. Most remarkably, the process was repeatable. According to the Bridgers, similar preparation protocols had been implemented on millions of worlds throughout galactic history, always respecting the autonomy and cultural uniqueness of each species, while guiding them toward cosmic consciousness. Earth had passed the test. Humanity had chosen wisely. The next chapter of their story would be written among the stars, while still honoring the world that had given them birth. 6 months after the convergence window opened, humanity had achieved something unprecedented in the documented history of galactic civilization: a successful dual-species evolution that bridged biological existence and transcendent consciousness while preserving the essential characteristics that made their world unique. The Bridgers, now numbering over 3 billion humans, served as living connections between Earth and the vast community of conscious beings that populated the galaxy in forms both recognizable and unimaginable. Through them, humanity learned the full scope of what they had joined and the profound responsibility they had accepted. The universe was populated by millions of species across billions of worlds, each having undergone similar evolutionary transitions across cosmic timescales that dwarfed human history. The beings encountered in 1947 were members of a collective dedicated to guiding younger civilizations through their consciousness transformation periods, a responsibility that evolved species accepted as part of their cosmic citizenship. Earth had been selected for the dual evolution protocol because humanity demonstrated a rare and precious quality that most species lost during their transcendence: the ability to maintain individual creativity, emotional intensity, and cultural diversity while accepting collective consciousness. Most civilizations chose either pure individualism, which led to stagnation and eventual extinction, or complete integration, which achieved transcendence but lost the creative spark that drove innovation and growth. Humanity had found a third path that preserved both individual genius and collective wisdom. The Generation Zero subjects, now revealed as humanity's first volunteers for temporal consciousness preparation, became Earth's official ambassadors to this galactic community. Their childhood memories, once suppressed for their own protection, now served as humanity's introduction to civilizations that spanned multiple dimensions and existed across timescales measured in millions of years. Margaret Sweetwater, at age 78, found herself serving as Earth's primary diplomatic liaison to species that had evolved beyond physical form eons before Earth's sun had formed. But perhaps most remarkably, the documentation itself, these very classified files that had been preserved, hidden, and ultimately released, were discovered to be part of the original temporal protocol. The truth had been carefully maintained through decades of classification and declassification cycles, ensuring that humanity's story would be available exactly when the species needed to understand their own transformation. Analysis of the document release patterns revealed that even the timing of FOIA requests, whistleblower revelations, and congressional hearings had been subtly influenced by network-connected individuals operating under temporal instructions received 78 years earlier. The entire revelation process had been orchestrated across multiple generations to ensure optimal psychological preparation for species-wide consciousness evolution. The final entry in Margaret Sweetwater's personal log, dated December 31, 2025, and subsequently declassified for universal access, reads, "We thought they came to change us. We feared they came to control us. But they came to help us remember who we always had the potential to become. The silence was never about hiding the truth. It was about preserving it until we were wise enough to hear it. The real conversation between Earth and the cosmos has just begun, and humanity finally has a voice worthy of the choir." Looking back with the perspective of cosmic consciousness, the Silence Protocol represented not government conspiracy, alien invasion, or loss of human autonomy, but the most profound gift ever given to an evolving species: the opportunity to choose transcendence rather than have it imposed, to maintain their essential nature while expanding beyond their limitations, and to join a galactic community not as subjects or servants, but as valued contributors to the ongoing evolution of consciousness itself. Humanity had passed the test that millions of species had failed. They had learned to evolve without losing themselves, to transcend without abandoning their origins, and to join the cosmic community while preserving everything that made them uniquely valuable. The next chapter of their story would be written among the stars, but Earth would always remain home, a garden world where consciousness learned to bloom in infinite varieties, now serving as an example for other species beginning their own journey toward the stars. The Silence Protocol was complete. The conversation with infinity had begun.